Lee, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Savannah. Welcome to our
Christmas
show.
special.
Our Christmas special. I have on my Christmas shirt.
I give you nothing for Christmas. I'm actually normally very themed.
Yeah, you're not very themed.
I have
today.
nothing.
Yes.
Wednesday Addams does Christmas.
Yeah.
Lee, to start our Christmas special off, we have no reviews, nothing like that.
No reviews.
We do have reviews we could talk about, but instead we're going to do something different.
Got it. What
Lee,
are we gonna do? Oh, no.
I got you a gift.
Oh, no. I come giftless.
That's okay. I almost gave you a heads up to say I was going to give you one because I didn't want you to feel weird about it, but then I didn't want you to ask what it was.
And now we have it on tape that I came giftless.
Well, that's okay. Okay. So I have a gift for you that you're going to like, for sure. And then I have a gift for you that you're not going to like, for sure. So which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with the one I'm not going to like.
Okay, great. So do you remember me
Halloween.
telling you about Labubu's?
Labubu's. It seems like I have some memory in the back of my mind of the phrase Labubu's.
When we were at the Well coffee shop,
Yes.
I think meeting for one of the first times, I talked to you about Labubu's.
Okay.
Labubu's are a huge cultural sensation from this year, like one of the top selling products this year. They're these little keychains of like stuffed animals
Oh my
that
goodness.
people put on their backpacks. And I said, if you put it on your backpack, that Gen Z students will talk to you.
Got it.
Okay, and the real Labubu's are big. And I knew that you wouldn't put it on your backpack. But you have a black backpack
Yes.
that I've seen.
I have a blue backpack.
A blue backpack that you've seen, yes. And so I got you a mini Labubu. But here's the story behind it and why we're going to do a whole opening.
Okay.
The mini Labubus have letters. So it's like a little letter keychain with a tiny little Labubu stuffy. And it's a blind box opening. So you can choose from the first half of the alphabet or the second half of the alphabet, and you don't know what letter you're going to get. So I chose the first half for you, hoping we get an L or a C.
Got it.
If we don't, then we just have to apply meaning to your letter.
Okay. I think I understand.
So you just have to open it up, and whatever letter you get, you have to accept, and then you have to put it on your backpack, okay?
I have to accept
You
whatever
have to accept
letter.
whatever letter it is.
There's only going to be one letter?
I hope it's an L or a C, and I chose from the first half.
These are very ugly creatures. And that's the small one? Lord have mercy.
And I'm desperate for it to be an L or a C, but I know that I can't control it.
You do seem to have control issues.
If it's not, though, we can come up with meaning for any other letter.
Okay.
G, God. J, Jesus. You know what I mean?
I feel like we're back in Sunday school.
H, Howarwa.
Pin for love. The monster's pin for love. Oh, me. Okay, so that the camera can see.
Well, yeah, if you're listening to this and you want to see, watch it on YouTube or Spotify. Oh my God, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. Oh my God, it's so cute. Wait.
It's so stupid.
Is there a letter? There's not even a letter involved?
I don't see a letter.
Okay, honestly, this is even better because my anxiety has been at a 10 out of 10.
Wait,
thinking
because it has a question mark on here.
It must just be a mystery one. Even better, and those questions to me represent your curiosity about all things God.
Well, thank you for that. Merry Christmas.
And we'll take a picture of Lee later with it on his backpack, the Labubu.
Thank you, Savannah. This means the world to me.
I told you wouldn't like it.
I'm so glad I got the rough one over.
The second one's not a big deal. It's just something I knew I needed to get you so that you wouldn't be upset about the Labubu.
Hey.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so glad I didn't buy it last week because I thought I might.
I was nervous you would have bought it, but I thought you didn't have much time.
Thank you very much.
This is a book called James by Percival Everett that Lee Camp is going to love.
Excellent.
And you can read it next to your Labubu.
It may be my Christmas break read.
Yeah, I think it would be a great Christmas break read. That doesn't have to be displayed, but the Labubu does.
Thank you, Savannah.
You're welcome, Lee.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all. Do you guys do gifts exchanges with your fam?
Yes.
And have you already done your Christmas shopping?
No, I haven't.
Do you do lists or are you surprising?
We now do more lists to try to keep it a little more simple.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that way, like, no one's getting something that is like a waste or whatever.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. You?
Todd and I don't do gifts. I don't know why. We never really have. But I think it's mainly just because if there's anything we really need, we'll just kind of go for it. And with like my nieces and nephews, we'll get stuff. But in general, we're just not like, I don't know. Like, unless there's something that comes to mind. Like my friend Sarah, I knew that she wanted a blue china tea set. And when we were unpacking, because we just moved, I realized I have a whole box of a blue china tea set.
There you
and
go.
I was like, perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Yes. Or like if I just gave them gifts. I gave Mary Evelyn and Sarah and Sophie gifts too, just because when I was in a store, like certain things reminded me of them. So I'll do that. But it's not really like a formal, like we have to do this thing.
And brought me gifts.
Well, the Labubu was for the bet. James is because I know you'll.
Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Let's start the show.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Christmas episode of the Subtext, where we go beneath the headlines and beyond the obvious with our Labubu in hand.
Yes.
I'm Savannah Locke.
I'm Lee C. Camp.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us get the show in front of more people, do us a favor by following and rating it wherever you listen. Leave a review, give us 5 stars, hype us up. And if you want to watch full episodes and watch Lee open up his Labubu and us figure out 5 minutes later what letter it represented, you should find that on YouTube or Spotify. You can follow the show at The Subtext Show, me at Savannah_Locke, and Lee at Lee C. Camp. And lastly, if you have any questions or suggestions for the show, just DM us on Instagram at The Subtext Show. That's all?
That's all. Welcome.
It's the easiest, most simple thing to be part of our community.
Welcome to the show and welcome to our community.
Exactly. Okay, so today we're doing a headline swap.
Headline swap.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm a little nervous about it. I like to be prepared, and since I can't be prepared, I feel anxious.
I was curious how that would hit you.
Yeah.
In our episode brief.
I'm not anxious. I'm just aware of a vulnerability.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great way to verbalize it.
Yeah.
In our episode brief, for anyone who wants to know, I write out the episodes in like a Google Doc, and I'll just send Lee all the resources and everything that we're going to be talking about. And on this one, because we're supposed to be doing like a blind swap, I say, Lee, don't look below if you don't want to see my article. And then I put it on the next page. But I wanted to give you the option.
I appreciate that. And I courageously did not look.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. I did not look.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
So basically, the idea is that I found something that I've read recently. You found something you've read recently. And for the first time, I think ever, you're going to present me with something.
How about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do what I normally do.
Okay.
Okay, so my article is from Substack, so it wasn't from like an official news source. But I thought it was really interesting. The title of it is Why Everyone's Cutting Everyone Off: The Cultural Story Behind Family Estrangement.
How interesting.
So it was written by a therapist named Rachel Haack. She has her master's in family therapy and blah, 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 blah. So she is qualified. And she says that it's a therapist's look at how postmodern ideas, digital culture, and consumer values quietly rewired our expectations of family and what we can do to restore connection in an age of disconnection. How does that hit you initially?
It strikes me as fascinating. I want to hear what she has to say.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, let's start with, I basically summarized her whole thing.
Okay.
And we'll go point by point. Number 1, she says postmodernism and critical theory in the family system. Okay? You're going to love this. I can't wait to hear that.
Let me make a guess and see if we get close at all.
Thrilling. I love this idea.
So it's going to be something about looking for mechanisms of power and the way mechanisms of power victimize or rob people of agency, and thus in order to come into your full human self, you must cut yourself off from those mechanisms of power or something like that.
Okay, so you are so close. Your general theme is correct.
Okay.
So what she is saying, so to be clear, Rachel Haack is criticizing, that's too strong of a word. Rachel Haack is noticing the trend of how much estrangement is happening between children and their parents.
Yeah.
And she's trying to assess why that's happening.
Right.
But what you just said is what she is saying is the narrative that's being fed to a lot of people. which is that postmodernism taught us to question authority and dismantle universal truths. And then critical theory is a lens that teaches us to look for oppressors in power in every relationship. And so she says both are useful lenses at first until they become the only lenses. So today, these frameworks have trickled all the way down into the family, where dynamics are no longer just relational, but political, where parents are the oppressors and children need to be liberated from that. So yeah, what you just said is
very interesting.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Or were you just saying what you thought she was going to say?
Yeah, I was saying what I assumed from the title she was going to say. Yeah.
I mean, A+ work.
Yeah.
A+ work. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. I mean, I think that doing family is challenging in the first place. And I think that I can see how if we have in fact inherited presumptions to always be looking for an oppressor, how that is going to further exacerbate the challenges of doing family.
Yeah, I agree with that take.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the comments later.
Okay.
Because I agree with that take. And I think that that's a more measured way of saying maybe what she was saying. And although I appreciate how she said what she said, but I think a lot of people's responses are like, what if my parents really are oppressive?
Yeah.
Or the system I come from really is oppressive.
Well, and it also, I mean, a lot of that comes back as well to the question of how you define oppressive, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's oppression and then there's oppression.
Mm-hmm.
And so clearly there are all sorts of cases in which broken people, parents lacking sufficient maturation as human beings, do horrible things to their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the fact that all of us who are parents do some harm to our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, because it's become a joke, it's like, well, you can just save the money and give it to your kids and they can use it in therapy, right? And so it's like, it's a joke that's true, right? Because we all know that we all transmit unhealthy habits, unhealthy ways of thinking, damaging ways of thinking to our kids, and there's no escaping it. And so then the question becomes, do we want to so make an issue out of that therefore there's no way forward other than cutting off? Because that's the way families are, right? And then there's the other thing that I think about is that again, there is the reality that we have to learn to draw boundaries and healthy boundaries, and to say to our parents, to say to our children, to say to our siblings, to say to our friends. There are places where you have to learn to say no.
Yep.
And know they're going to be frustrated, right? And so that's part of growing up, and that's part of becoming mature human beings. But if we've made all of this stuff always a mechanism of oppression, then you lack the possibility to be in relationship with that which has formed you, and apart from which I don't think necessarily, I want to be careful how I say this. It seems to me, and I have read people who write on family systems say, that until you find a way to be back in communion with, in some sort of healthy way, your family of origin, that there's a inhibition to your own maturation as a person. And so if the best you can do is cut them off, that seems tragic to me. And if something unnecessarily is causing people to think that they need to cut people off, when rather really what they might need to do is to do a lot more hard work, then that seems tragic to me.
Yeah, I think that's, once again, in the comments. So I spent a ton of time in the comment section. There were over 430 comments. So I was just like going through
the Substack comments on this article.
The comments on this article. And that's what, that is actually a lot of the core of what people were arguing about. Is it a tragedy when someone has to cut off their family in order to be free or safe or whatever they want to say. Like, is that a tragedy in all circumstances, the majority of circumstances, many circumstances, or is it a gift? I think that's like kind of what people were kind of trying to reconcile. And I suspect a lot of this would have to do with age. Like, I think a lot of younger people might say, this is a gift. Like, this is great. I'm happy, blah, blah, blah. But I am curious if with time and with age, if there is something that starts to change. Or maybe not. I have no idea. I'm not sure. But it was a tense point in the comment section.
I can imagine it would be. And yeah, it would be interesting to know how much of it difference of opinion correlates with age. But, I mean, years ago I read David Schnarch, who is a family systems therapist guy. Yeah.
I feel bad for his last.
Don't be ugly. He didn't pick it.
Schnarch.
So I read David Schnarch, and one of his big things is that that marriage, what a lot of people call marriage, what a lot of people call a problem marriage, is marriage. And that we have these idealistic, unrealistic notions of marriage. And that instead, that marriage is what he calls a people-growing institution. And it's precisely through the hard stuff that you actually become a more mature human being. And that you can get in these places of conflict that are non-productive and just painful, and you just get in this cycle and you're just miserable forever. Or you can find ways to stand on your own 2 feet and develop this sort of non-anxious presence and say what you think and stand up for what you believe in and stay in it, and it's going to get even hotter until it resolves. But as it gets hotter, the crucible of that can allow you to become a more mature human being on the other side of that until you go through another one of those, 10 or 15 years later or whatever. And so the idea there is that when you're always so frightened of conflict or difficulty, relational difficulty, and you get out, then you're robbing yourself of an opportunity to grow as a human being. And so I wonder, how much of this with regard to cutting off family relations is another kind of form of that, where it may be better for everybody if you just stay in there and be pissed off with each other and learn to work through it, right? And learn to deal with it as opposed to thinking you got to cut people off. Again, boundaries, all for them.
Yes.
Boundaries are crucial, right? It's not either or, it's both and, right? And because the boundaries in many ways can allow you to be present in difficulty in a way that if you're emotionally enmeshed, you cannot.
You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm happy you went back to boundaries because I wanted to affirm that. Like, I think a lot of people think of boundaries as like a way to distance in relationships, but boundaries really should be like a way to strengthen a relationship in a healthier way. Yeah. And I think sometimes those can become mistaken or whatever. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, that was her first point. Okay. Second point, social contagion and the amplification of ideas is what she calls it. And so she talks about how before smartphones, ideas spread through communities slowly, like through conversation, through print, through lived experience. But now they go viral without any sort of friction or context. And what she's pointing to here is how, like on TikTok, there's this huge trend for like going no contact with your parents. And I'm not even just specifically, people are doing this with siblings, with aunts, uncles, grandparents, whatever. But in this context, how going no contact with your family has actually become a viral trend.
Really?
And so for her, she says that she thinks some of it could be related to social contagion, where people are looking at other people online and there's not any sort of like real context or community or relationship there, but the idea is able to spread. How do you feel about social contagion?
I mean, clearly all the technology that we have is spreading all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, that seems to be quite plausible. But it really, I mean, that ticks me off. I mean, it's like, here we are in a world of ever deepening loneliness, and we have a loneliness epidemic. And, study after study after study tells us that the more we lean into our individualized vision, our atomized vision of being a person, that the more miserable we are, and the more sick we are physically, and the shorter our lifespan is, and the higher our comorbidities. And so it's like, and that a large part of what's driving all of that is the social media world. And so then you have the social media world spreading this contagion of, well, the solution for you is to cut off yet more people in your life. And it's like, good Lord, come on.
Makes you angry.
Yeah. Can I insert one more thing? I'm very conscious as we're having this conversation that I do not in any way want to communicate any sort of idealistic or utopian vision of family.
That's actually literally what I was just trying to.
Yeah, because it's like, I know, and have seen and plenty of grave challenges to family life.
Yeah.
And so I am not a Leave It to Beaver, idealistic utopian about family.
Yes.
But I just don't see how these sorts of trends do anything other than further wound us.
I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of the direction I was wanting to head in, just for a moment before we go back, because I think this criticism is really warranted. And I think what she's saying is really warranted. And I know there are exceptions to this. And so I think there are exceptions, and I want to make room for that and just name that like, yes, if your parents are like physically abusing or whatever, it's like, like it's not that you have to deal with that. And I think that this criticism is in general warranted. And for it to be a trend shows that there is some sort of contagion and energy around it that is causing more and more loneliness and are also causing more people to be estranged with their families. And so that's what we're talking about here. We are not saying stay in abusive situations.
Correct.
Like, that is not what we were saying. Yeah. And I mean, I've talked to you about this too, and I'm fine with talking about it on the show, but in my own life, I have had two relatives that have not spoken to me for over a decade. And that is okay. Like, I think, and I believe that, like, eventually in the long term, like, and I probably in this case am going to be David Bentley Hart here / Paul Young / Brad Jerzak. Postmortem, I think that God will help us reconcile. Like, I think that there's something to that. And on this side of things, there isn't a way forward. There's no animosity. Like, I've done my work for, like, on my end of, like, forgiveness and healing and all of that. So I think that the angst and the energy is not there. And there isn't a specific way forward for this. And even that gets complicated, because when one of these family members who didn't talk to me until their dad, like, even past their, like, they didn't talk to me, they died, that I did go to their funeral. And that was my way of honoring them. And so I think that there's also, like, complexity underneath this that I want to name, that, like, I'm even experiencing, like, where I agree with this criticism. And I also want to name that there are two family members in my own direct, like, vicinity, that there's a complexity here. So I just want to make space for that. Yeah. Okay, next. The portable, always connected world is what she calls this. She talks about how in 1960, a college student might have called home once a month, which is wild. But then now most adults are managing hundreds of micro relationships through text, email, and social media, and that the guilt of not keeping up or failing to stay in touch becomes exhausting. So then she theorizes that guilt leads to avoidance of conflict.
That the guilt with regard to not keeping up with all of these relationships,
that people just avoid it altogether.
We avoid it altogether
because they're just like, this is too much. Like, I can't handle it. So she calls it, she says, we're living in the age of what I call too much para-connection, where everybody feels both crowded and lonely. Which, with you not having a cell phone, how, like, do you feel that weightiness still with emails and whatnot?
Yes, I do still. I mean, like, we had an event recently, and so I'm thinking 2 days out from that there are 3 or 4 people that I haven't texted yet that I should have texted already, and on my computer. So yeah, I think that's even without a cell phone, but yeah, how much more so with a cell phone?
Yeah, it's so real. And I, like, me sitting here, I already have 30 text messages just from when we started this episode.
Just from since we started this
Just
episode?
since we started this episode.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so I think that, like, that part really resonated with me specifically with, like, the guilt of, like, not keeping up and how that might lead to a general exhaustion around relationships that leads to a lower tolerance for, like, conflict in real life relationships. Right. Yeah. So I think that's a potential thing.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to love this next one because it's Jonathan Haidt. Oh my gosh. Okay, so she calls it concept creep.
Concept creep.
Yes. She says over the past decade, psychological language has been, like, used in everyday conversations now. So we, like, used to have, like, clinical meaning around things like trauma, abuse, narcissism, gaslighting, boundaries. But now, because it's being used in everyday, the concept has kind of, like, crept in and, like, been diluted from what it actually is. Yeah. And now we're just naming everything.
Don't gaslight me.
Yeah, don't
You're
gaslight
being
me.
so narcissistic all the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Jonathan Haidt talks about this. He calls this concept creep. And he says that as a result of this, a new cultural ideal has emerged, which is called safetyism. So he says safety, once meaning freedom from physical danger, now includes freedom from emotional discomfort. So to be safe means to never feel hurt, anxious, or misunderstood.
Yeah.
And she says that this could have a part in why there's a lot of estrangement at the moment.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with what you think?
That resonates with what I think a lot. Yeah.
It feels true.
It feels true. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any sort of studies at hand or anything like that, but it definitely feels true.
The safetyism thing, I had never heard that language wrapped around it.
Yeah.
But it has kind of become, like, the primary thing. Are we creating a safe environment? Or, like, and by that, it doesn't mean, like, from physical harm, but from anyone getting their feelings hurt too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even with that, you know, I mean, I think that and my wife and I were talking about this recently of where, with regard to one given topic, we were talking about how hard it is to be in certain contexts where, and we used, one of us used the language of safe, where you don't feel safe, you know, really being yourself around this given topic. And, but I think that, you know, for myself, I would want to make a distinction between saying, yeah, I want to have circles where I can just feel completely at ease and being myself fully. And then other places where I don't have to avoid them, though. You know, I can still lean in and be in places where I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because to always want to be comfortable doesn't seem to be a particularly healthy way to be a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. And I think, too, like, once again, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but just when I think about my own life and having to navigate complex, messy relationships, I have come to peace with the fact that I cannot show every person every part of myself.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't even know that it's a fair expectation. Like, I wish maybe that I could walk into every room and, like, not be nervous about sharing all of my opinions or thoughts or laughing or being too loud or whatever. But, like, I have come to peace with, like, if I want to be in a relationship with these people and I've decided I do, then what that means is that I'm going to have to filter myself.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, I don't have to do that with my husband, which I think is important. And then I have a couple of really close friends that I don't have to do that with. And that matters to me. And I'm so grateful for that. But I don't think that it's fair, maybe, or, like, realistic, maybe is a better term. It's not realistic to expect that in every single room at all times, I'm going to be safe being 100% myself.
Yeah. But even, I mean,
are you about to ask, what does be myself mean?
Well, no, I was going to ask, like, do you really never filter yourself with your husband? Don't we filter ourselves?
That's good. I'm happy you said
everyone, right? But it's like, we're always making judgments about when's the best time to say this and when's the best time not to say that.
You're right.
And that if we need to say something difficult, we say it in a way that can best be heard, right?
I think you're right. Yeah.
So
I do think, though, that there is an emotional on and off switch that I have. I don't know if everyone does. And there are a couple of people where it's like when I'm in the room with them, I just don't feel like I have to, like, put on the song and dance.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's more what I mean.
Yeah.
That I just am at ease.
Yeah.
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 But I'm not, that's not realistic for every situation.
Yeah.
But people are still worth being in a relationship
with.
Yeah. Okay, last one. And then we get to go to your article. You get to explain. She calls it Luxury Beliefs and the New Village of One. So what she talks about is basically...
hang on. Luxury Beliefs and the New Village of One. Okay.
Yeah, good title, right? For
Yeah.
her little thing. She talks about sociologist Rob Henderson, who coined the term luxury beliefs to describe ideas that signal social status but often carry hidden costs for others. So in this context, the belief that cutting off toxic family members is always healthy functions like a luxury belief. It's mostly easily embraced by those who can afford to lose their family members and replace them with paid support networks. So what she talks about how is like, if your in-law is annoying, then you just pay for childcare. Or like if you don't want to talk, then you pay for a house cleaner and you pay for a doula to take care of your kid at night or whatever. So like you basically are able to outsource because of financial resources.
Yeah.
And then you just end up being able to take care of everything yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fascinating. That makes loads of sense.
Yeah. And basically what she says is that, and this goes back to your previous point, that as we drift further, and I love this phrase, as we drift further into what might be called the luxury of disconnection, a life where we can meet nearly all of our needs without ever having to practice forgiveness, patience, or repair.
Yeah, good word.
And that feels connected to what you were saying earlier with that we rob ourselves of the opportunity. Once again, we are not talking about like literal abuse, but we rob ourselves of the opportunity of repairing in wrestling it out with people when we just immediately disconnect.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you say, I mean, given that you've been open here with, you know, that you have had some of these episodes where you've had to deal with abuse and have had to navigate that. Where's the sort of, in your mind, that you're still holding on to critiques of this stuff that she's describing? That gives you a certain legitimacy, I think, of making the critiques that I, for example, couldn't have maybe. How do you think about making judgments about where you are on that continuum?
By making judgments, what do you mean?
By making judgments about certain sharper boundaries, pulling back, cutting off. Because as we've both noted, there is a time and a place to say, no, we're cutting off.
1,000,000%.
Right.
Yes.
And so for you, how do you think about when that occasion is? In general terms.
Yes. I guess all I can speak to is maybe like the turning point for me in my early 20s, where I have like this whole experience of realizing, wow, there's been a lot of harm that was done to me that I didn't even realize was harm. And like, I have had a lot of very like physically unsafe things happen I didn't know and blah, blah. And that turns into like, I'm isolating myself from everyone because I cannot be in relationship with any person that was part of this world, right? And then for me, it comes back to like a God thing, not to be like so Christian, but like this idea of like mercy and forgiveness and just realizing like, for me, like, I am not going to put myself back in harm's way. So I am now an adult and I am not going to be put into a scenario by anyone in the system where I will physically be harmed again. And I can do the emotional and spiritual work of forgiveness and showing mercy. So like for me, that felt like that was my call here, was like, I could live the rest of my life justifiably. Like I think a lot of people would be like, totally, I get it. Justifiably angry and not seeing these other people as human and not seeing any reason to want to reconcile. But for me, the more full life option, and like when I think about like Jesus came to give life abundantly, like when I think about that abundant life option, I'm like, no, the abundant life is in the mercy and the abundant life is in the forgiveness. And so for me, it's in the repair, in the restoration. And that does not mean like I am not, like it's not like I'm like chatting things up with people, like at all. Like it's not like, hey, by the way, like I'm recording this new podcast episode today. Like those are for those conversations and those intimate conversations are for people who have earned the right to be in that part of my life. But like I am kind and loving and friendly and generous towards people who have hurt me. And I think that comes from like a religious thing. I think for me, the boundary piece would be like, if to be in relationship with someone would put me back in harm's way, I wouldn't do it. And I think that's okay.
Mhm.
Like, I wouldn't put myself back into like a place where I would be physically harmed again, or in a place where I was constantly being like berated verbally or something. And so I think that and I don't know, this is going to sound maybe a little Southern and conservative, but I think getting married helped, because now that there's like a man in my life, like there also is like a layer of protection there, at least in the systems that I'm part of.
Yeah.
Where like if Todd's around, no one is going to bully me.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's also something there to like that added a layer of safety for me, where I was able to do some more of that work of reconciliation. Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, so a follow-up question. So
Mhm.
when you think about that work of forgiveness and mercy, it's common for some people to speak of forgiveness as it's something that the one who has been offended or harmed does on behalf of the good of the other person. And then other people will say, no, when you're forgiving, it's more about your own good because you're letting go of the resentment or the bitterness. How do you think about that set of conversations?
Forgiveness never made sense to me until I started doing this work in my like late 20s. And I do not know if this is right. I have no idea, but I'll just tell you my practice of forgiveness. My practice of forgiveness was a practice of humanization. And I've written about this before. My practice of forgiveness was saying like, okay, like this one specific person, let's say, that has physically harmed me and has never apologized and never will. They are still human and they're loved by God. And so my practice was actually to envision this person as a child and to say, God, help me see this person when they were a child and innocent, and that they've been hurt, and to try to help get God's vision for them. That was my practice of forgiveness. And it took years for me to get to a point, and I've talked to you about this too, like when I went to that person's funeral, I ended up seeing the person who was harmful towards me. And when I saw this person, I was like, oh, my practice worked. Like I see that person as a human. And for me, it just came down to like me just in like my prayer life of being able to envision them as a child and just say, God, like help me see them like a child. So I don't think that has any like bearing in tradition or whatever, but for me, that's kind of what worked. And I think sometimes we put people in our lives on pedestals and expect them to be our heroes or something. And I think when you neutralize and start to see people, like we're all just like little kids with grown-up suits and be able to see people like that. I don't know. That's helped me forgive.
That's lovely.
It's not a traditional form of forgiveness practice, but that's what I did. Also, learning people, this is so random, but learning people's middle names helps me feel like they're more human too.
That's so funny. I love asking people their middle names.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And thinking, oh, your parent named you these 3 names. Like you have your first, your middle, and your last, and to like think of them in that light too, like a humanization practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other practices along in that humanization in addition to seeing them as a child, trying to envision them as a child?
I literally would just envision them as a child and like literally ask God to help me see them that way.
Yeah.
And now when I think of like even just now in my mind's eye, I thought of them as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know why that helps me. I think it just helps me see that at one point they were innocent, you know, and at one point like life happened to them too, and everyone has goodness inside of them too, even if they've done a lot of harm.
What helped? May I ask another follow-up?
Yeah. I don't know why this became my interview. I'm sorry. I feel bad.
No,
I feel
please
bad.
don't. So when you began to move towards trying to humanize that person, I would presume that the previous state would have been some sort of anger / resentment / bitterness. And so what helped you begin to move from that state of angerness / bitterness / resentment, whatever word or words you would use to describe that phrase, into this other possibility? What was that process of transition like for you?
It felt like I was caught up in Charlotte's Web. Like it felt like I was just caught up in like a web, and that I was like something that had been trapped by like a spider or something in their web, and I couldn't get out. And I just remember feeling so tired of living that way. Like I felt tired of giving this system and these people so much power in my life, and even the positioning of my own life was like how much they had hurt me. And I think that started off as such a good thing to name that I had been hurt. I had never named that in my life before. I didn't even know what had happened to me was abusive. And I think to name that became beautiful, but then it kind of shifted into this like positioning of like, I am the abused one and you are the abusers. And I think that just got tiring. And I thought to myself, like, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. I don't want to live the rest of my life as like a victim and constantly be like mad at the system and what created me and blah, blah, blah. And so for me, it just became uncomfortable to live that way. And I just thought, how can I get out? And I remember reading Jesus's conversation with Peter and the whole, like, how much do I forgive? 70 times 7. And realizing, like, I just have to keep on doing it over and over and over again as a practice. And when I realized forgiveness is not a magical thing that happens, it's a practice that you do. And I felt like it was just like getting out of Charlotte's Web. It was like one thing at a time came off every time I chose to get in there and say, like, okay, I'm going to see you as like a child. I'm going to see you like with God's eyes and remember that you were created by God and that you deserve love. Like, it was like it kind of helped me untangle and just live more free.
Yeah. A weariness with the sense of victimization.
Yes.
And a reclaiming of agency.
And I think that that's what this, like, that's why I really resonated with the article, even though I have estranged things, where I'm like, yeah, like, it can be really tiring to constantly be looking for ways that people are hurting you and how you're the victim in the situation. And I felt that, like, when I was reading, I was like, oh, this is a good criticism. Like, I need this. I need to remember this and remember, like, even how much I've grown and how I don't want to, like, go back into that. Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of one theologian talking about theology of forgiveness, in which he, as I recollect, he says that, he makes the distinction between forgiveness and reconciliation.
Okay.
And that reconciliation is this kind of full state of being in communion with one another again. But forgiveness is a state prior to that, or it's a practice prior to that, in which one becomes open to some sort of form of relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's moving into a posture of saying, I'm still going to have my boundaries, but I'm open to the possibility that we could have a relationship.
Yes.
And I found that really helpful.
That's so helpful.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah. In
Because
that case, it would be reconciliation is a two-way, like a two-party involvement versus forgiveness you can do now.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone can do forgiveness.
And it's that way of construing forgiveness is letting go of the way the resentment is poisoning me and letting me reclaim my agency in having boundaries and yet being open to the possibility of something new.
And being open to the possibility of something new.
So.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Lee, sorry.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
I literally took over and now we're out of time.
You didn't take over.
This isn't a headline swap anymore.
You allowed me to ask questions, and I'm grateful that you allowed me to do that.
Oh, from a labubu to forgiveness. God, people are not going to be ready for this roller coaster that we're putting them on. That is, when I was naming the practice out loud, though, that is a practice. That's a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if other people have done that. You might know. Have you ever heard of it? But that is a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it gives someone practical, like a way to sink your teeth into forgiveness.
Right.
It's not this magical thing. It's like you can just practice it every day.
And it's not a one and done. Yeah. It's going to always be take it up again. Yeah. Just like resentment is a practice, right? You do it every day.
Yes.
Right. And so then it's, can you come up with some alternative practice that doesn't suck the life out of you like the resentment does?
Exactly. Yeah, because it's a much more redemptive practice. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Lee, do you want to share your article
or
do you just want to be done?
We had a great conversation.
How did you weasel your way out of it?
We had a great conversation. You forget that I have a living asking people questions.
Actually, literally so true. As soon as you asked me, I was like, we just shifted. We shifted it to no small endeavor world. Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We hope we made you cry.
Yeah, well, yeah, or I would rather have hoped give you some helpful practices for living life well.
And just maybe a potential way of thinking about family as you go into the Christmas season.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
One of my, a good friend of mine who's a priest, years ago, we were laughing, talking about the challenges of family sometimes in the holidays, and he said that he had read, I think it was another priest who had said that it can be helpful to approach family gatherings as an anthropologist approaches tribal cultures. and that you come
I
in
love
with a posture of curiosity,
Yeah.
that rather than being ready for your feet to be stepped on, your toes to be stepped on, you just say, I wonder why they do this way, and I wonder why they talk this way, and I wonder why they don't talk about that, and I wonder why they get around the table this way, and why that person is sitting next to that person, and just go at it with curiosity. And I just find that so helpful,
I love that.
Yes. So
Nice.
may you be blessed in your Christmas season to be an anthropologist around your Christmas table.
Blessings.
Yeah.